We are in downtown LA. Beautiful day, sunny day. We'll be squinting a little bit, but today I got a guest. The California Realtor. The California Realtor just so happens to be my best friend from childhood. So here he is.
How's it going?
So this is episode 44, and I thought I'd bring on John so that we could fucking break it down what it is being a realtor is. But we're gonna start with, just give a quick intro.
Super quick intro. I've known Chris, I don't know exactly how long, but for a while now. I want to say maybe since I was like 10? I was like 10, how old? I don't even.
Longer.
Longer than that, right?
We went to elementary
8?
school.
7?
We were in the
7?
same elementary school together. We just don't remember like specifically when, but we were neighbors since.
I feel like we just
forever.
knew each other.
When
Right?
did you move near me?
Well, I moved to Boyle Heights, and I think I was like 5 or 6. So yeah, 5, 6, right? We went to the same
I
elementary
was like
school.
4. You're 2 years older than me, so we probably moved there at the same time.
That's a long time.
Basically, our whole lives, really.
Yeah, a whole lifetime. So I know this guy pretty well.
But I've not really understood like how you even became a realtor. So I think we should start with that. Like, how did you become a realtor?
Okay. Let me just put this for Hercules real quick. Vente acá.
No,
Here.
no problem.
Here. Come. You want to use this? You can use this. ¿O quieres Lingo Kids? Here. You can just use Lingo Kids, okay? Here, use. Play that. There. Esta. Go. Esta está bien. Here. Esta. You're fine. Use this one. Okay. So as you guys can see, I have my baby here. So there's
Multitasking. We're both great fathers
Mhm.
and exploring how we're going to become great businessmen, right?
So we've known each other for a while. There was a time where I took off to Modesto for college, for education.
Right.
And throughout that time, we stayed connected. We spoke. We've always stayed connected, but I feel like there was
Yeah.
maybe certain gaps that we missed in each other's lives. But
I remember when you would call me with like your next thing that like next venture, next thing that you're going to do, and then another long gap would happen.
yeah,
And that's kind of how it went for years. So I didn't really know how. Like you just left for college, and then boom, now you're the California Realtor. What happened?
So I was in college. I was going to school for criminal justice, and that did not work out because I was partying too much. I had an 8 a.m. class, and one day, actually a couple days, I decided to party, and then I showed up late a couple times, and I ended up not doing so well in that class, and I just thought, okay, you know what, this isn't for me. The early classes are not for me. Maybe this route just isn't for me.
Okay.
So I just took it as a sign, and that was that for criminal justice. And then I attempted to do computer science, and I've always loved computers. I'm pretty sure Chris knows that.
So did you change up your classes in college?
Yeah, I was able to change them. So
Okay.
I adjusted as I'm flowing through college. I'm just adjusting, right? Trying to see what flows, what works, and I mean, I was immature, right? I just didn't know. I was still learning and growing and just having fun. Long story short, though, I attempted to do computer science, and funny story, I actually ordered my book from check.com, right? And it's a really good service, by the way. So I think you just rent out the books and then they deliver it to you. So I ended up getting the book. I didn't receive it in my hands. So a whole month went by. I was in the class, and this is a C++ class, which is a pretty tough language to learn, a computer language. And next thing you know, I don't get the book, but it says delivered. So I didn't get the book. It says delivered, and
Oh,
I call
okay.
them, right? So I call them, and next thing you know, it's like, hey, where's my book? And they're like, we delivered it. Check, look. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm gonna check. This was like a month later.
How much did you pay for the book?
I don't remember. I don't remember how much it was, but it was a thick book. So next thing you know, I'm like, okay, look, I'm gonna check, and then I'll give you a call. I'll give you guys a call back, just so they know that I attempted to check, right?
Right.
So I checked, and it was in my porch that I never went to. So I guess the delivery guy just threw it over my porch, and it was there, but it was like wet, and at that point, I was already failing the class. So I thought, you know what, this isn't it. Like, I attempted to make this
That
work.
was the straw that broke the camel's back, and you were like,
Yeah.
I'm done with this.
Well, not
Was
re-
it an excuse?
not really that I was done with it. It was more like I like to listen to life, and sometimes life gives you certain clues and guides you in certain directions. And I'll give you guys a good story about that maybe after I answer this first question. So that was it for that. Next thing you know, I was like, okay, well, let me see. You know, I asked life, you know, what should I do? What's my next step? And I ended up meeting somebody named Herman Bati, and he actually mentored me. So he's really good. He's in
Herman
Modesto.
Bati.
Herman Bati.
Okay.
He's a really good realtor. He's up north. He mentored me. He showed me a lot of the things that I know. He introduced me to the business, and he took me to Napa Valley one day to see a couple people that he worked with, and I really liked the way that he was handling business, the way he spoke to them, the way they were helping each other out. That was the biggest thing because I just naturally like to help people. So the way he was doing it really intrigued me, and it showed me that I can help people in a different type of way. So
Okay.
that's where that kind of started. And he was already in real estate, and he asked me, hey, John, you know, why don't you try this out? And it took me a while. It took me maybe about a year and a half to even enter that business. But that's how it started, right? And then I ended up getting my license after I was somewhat of an intern assistant with him.
Wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
for a while you were questioning whether you were going to go down this. So you made this decision over a long period of time.
It took a while because there was even a gap between that where I wanted to be a counselor for kids. And that right there was one of the biggest things that I wanted to do, and I really enjoyed it. And I actually attempted to work that route out a lot. There was a couple times where I felt like, you know, life was kind of guiding me a different direction, but I felt like, you know what, no, like I'm gonna stick to this. And a couple things, I'm not gonna get too specific as to what it was because it was a lot of things, but a couple things that kind of pushed me away from that was I remember working with kids. Like I was a tutor, and then I worked part-time at a group home, and I would talk to social workers, and it's just a very emotional field. Like it's an extremely emotional field to the point where I just felt like I would get involved if I
Yeah.
were to see something, I would have to say something. And when it comes down to those fields, you have to follow certain guidelines. I feel like personally, I would throw those guidelines out and be like, hey, you know what, I need to step in. And I wouldn't have a job then.
I definitely understand that feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I started seeing a lot of that, and I was like, you know what, this just isn't for me. Like I can help people in a different way, and this is where business came in. And just to add something, I never really liked business growing up.
Okay.
I never saw myself as any type of business person. Maybe because of where we were raised.
Well, did
Maybe
we know any
because of-
businessmen? Like that's
No.
I'm trying to think now, and I don't ever remember even thinking that was something to aspire, like being a businessman. Like that's
Yeah.
not something you aspire to be. That's just something you see in the movies, really.
Yeah. And I really thought, I was like, you know what? This whole business thing, like, maybe it's just a bunch of shady people at the time, right? Up until I met my friend.
I'm sure there's plenty.
I mean, I'm sure there is everywhere in any
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
I just started to meet other people that had a specific mindset and were there to help people. And that journey, I'm still on that journey, and I love it. I'm enjoying every second of it, and I'm still growing, I'm still learning, and I'm still on this path. And I do real estate.
So, how hard was it to get your real estate license?
It was actually really simple. So I wish
Did
I
you
w-
cheat on the test?
No, no, no. You can't. You can't really cheat on. You can't cheat on the test.
Can you take it personally? Like, can you take the test at home?
No, no.
No.
At least not that I know of. But the way that I took my test, I had to go in. They check your ID.
Oh wow.
They like empty out your pockets. You can't take anything in there. And it's like at a facility, so they're watching you. They have like camera.
My
I-
brother's. Before you get
Yeah.
into that, my brother, very smart businessman. He's in the real estate business as well. He's a real estate manager, and he had to take the test probably like 4 times.
Yeah.
He failed it like a whole bunch of times, and he had to end up like paying for like personal, like he had to go to like a seminar to really study and finally pass the
Yeah.
test.
Yeah.
So how was it?
I mean, it's a lot of overthinking, for sure. So, I understand your brother because I took the courses, and I wish I would have actually gotten into real estate sooner, but I feel like everything happens for a reason. So, it happened the way it happened. Now, I took the courses, and I was taking the practice exams, and I remember not passing the practice exam. So I ended up purchasing an exam prep, like your brother.
Right.
So I purchased that exam prep, and this was even before I took the test, because somebody told me, they were like, just do it, like get the exam prep because it's gonna help you pass it. Like
Right.
they have a lot of the questions there. So I think if I wouldn't have taken that exam prep, I probably would have been in the same scenario.
Like just like failing
Yeah.
it and failing it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually did fail it my first time. I remember driving there. I think I took my test. I took my test. I think it might have been here. I think I might have taken. No. You know what? No, I took my test up north. Okay, so I took my test up north in Sacramento, right by Raging Waters, and I remember my girlfriend. She. What's up, papas? It's okay. Look, boom. Give me a second.
No problem.
Okay. So I remember my girlfriend dropped me off, and she was like, "Oh, you got this," and I was like, "Okay, cool." Like I had been studying. I had a deck of like flashcards that I kept studying, and I was like, "I got this. Like this is easy."
Right.
So I drank a whole coffee, and I think I got an Americano, like just black, flat, and I just drank the whole thing. I was like, "Fuck, let's just go in
Did
there.
you
Let's
eat?
just do it." And next thing you know, I did the whole test, and then I finished like super quick within like, I want to say like an hour, and then I went back and I changed like 70% of the questions.
Wow.
I came out and I ended up failing that test. So I was like, what the fuck? And next thing you know, I come out and my girl's like,
Wait, this is the second time you
this
failed
was
it.
the first time I failed
Oh,
it.
this is okay. You're just okay.
Yeah, so this is the first time I failed it. So I come out and she's like, you passed it, right? And I was like, no, I didn't. So she actually had a gift for me. She had a whole gift ready, and I'm like, why? So, but here's the cool thing. I'm gonna tell you guys this. The cool thing is, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't know how I failed it. I don't know how I failed it. So I ended up going back on online, and somehow it allowed me to take it. I remember I took it a Friday, and I failed Friday, and it allowed me to take it the upcoming Tuesday. So I signed up for the upcoming Tuesday, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna pass this shit. I got this. Next thing you know, I remember we actually had to be down here. So I took my exam somewhere out here. And I went in there, I had studied literally like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And here. So I had studied Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesday. And I got there, I passed it. Oh, I got there, I took the exam, and I did not switch any answers, and I passed it.
That's so funny. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Because right now, when you said it the first time, you went like you second doubted yourself that first time and changed all your answers.
Yeah. So the
That's
first.
like what they say. Like always, like go with your first answer when you're doing like a test. Like go with the first one.
And that's funny because I actually I even went online. I went on YouTube and I put how to pass an exam, and there was this lady. She was like, if you don't know the answer, just go with your instinct and then just choose that one, and then just don't change it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. So
Yeah.
that's when I realized that I was like, you know what? I was just second thinking this. Like I should have just passed it the first time because I was studying every single day, an hour a day, and it was just how did I not pass it? But it was definitely overthinking.
Yeah. It's that doubt that made you go back and change all your answers.
Yeah.
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 So, would you say it's difficult?
The exam?
Like, is it difficult to become
No.
a realtor?
No, I think it's easy.
Can anybody do it?
I think anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I think
It's just putting in the time to learn the stuff that you need to know.
yeah. Yeah, I think honestly anybody could do it. I know people that don't know the English language that well and they've passed their exam,
Wow,
So it's
okay.
like I have a couple friends now that English is like their true second language, and they're passing it. They already passed it. So I think it's
Right.
pretty simple to be a real estate agent. Well, not to be, but to get your license, it's simple to get your license.
Right. That then going on to how if you're going to be successful, that's a whole different thing. But so I wanted to talk about. Let's move to something else. So in comedy, you see a lot of all these comedians. They've now learned to leverage the internet in their favor. And you're doing a good job of that for your business. You're, leveraging the internet. What made you, work on that aspect of the business?
Like leveraging on
Because
on
like
the
you
social
have
media.
your accounts. You're the California Realtor. What you do. Your videos and stuff. Your interview. Like what made you? Who inspired you to do that?
Okay.
To take this angle of putting
So-
yourself out there online.
So that's actually a pretty good question because before I transitioned into the California Realtor, and there's a lot actually that statement that I just made is pretty heavy because I'm just gonna add something super quick. I feel like you are more than just your career in life. And I've heard from a lot of people that, they own their businesses and they do their thing. They say, who are you after you retire? Right? And people have an identity crisis. So I do just want to add that we are more than just our occupation, what we work as.
Yeah.
So there's definitely more involved in that. But when I transitioned at the time into the California Realtor, I was not-
let's pause right there
Okay.
because I think I don't take issue with that, but I have a conflict with that because
Okay, good.
I think the most important thing in life is finding a passion, and when you're super passionate about something, it's hard to define your life with other things. And I think very successful people get their stories are of like being very tunnel visioned
Okay.
and being extremely focused on their business. They don't have hobbies. They don't live a life outside of that.
Okay.
So I'm having like thinking like how dedicated and how aggressive do I need to be with like a work-life balance?
Okay, so when I say that statement, I mean it more. Let's say there's gonna come a point where you're gonna retire, right? This
Yeah.
is for the people that are gonna retire in their career. Do I see myself retiring at any age? Not really. And I don't think you're gonna retire as a comedian. I
No.
think you're gonna do it forever. But I think I just wanted to add that for people that, let's say, they're a construction worker. There comes a point where you can no longer do construction. So you're no longer a construction worker. So at that point, I feel like there might be an identity crisis.
For sure, yeah.
So that
happens a lot.
in that aspect, that's the way that I mean it. Not really, like let's say with you as a comedian, or people with very specific passions, right? So I don't know if that kind of helps what that statement,
Yeah.
but that's more of why I meant to say it. And sometimes I feel like I love to share certain ideas because I like when people think in a different perspective, in a different light. I feel like, the way people think, sometimes there's no critical thinking.
Do you think people should be well-rounded?
I think it just depends. I mean, it just depends what kind of life you're living, it just depends, to be honest.
Because you see like some very successful entrepreneurs,
that are focused on one thing
That-
sometimes.
right? And they don't have their health together, or they don't have their marriages
Oh.
together,
So you're talking in
like
that aspect.
or like family life. They like they might be super career successful, but like maybe they destroyed some things on the way there.
Yeah.
But if you define yourself more than just your passion, then you're probably not going to do that, right?
Yeah. So I think the simplest way to answer that question is whatever you water grows, right? So if you neglect something and you don't water it,
Yeah.
it's gonna die, right? So it is a lot of work. I feel like everybody has a lot of things to do, and you have to pick and choose, what you want to do. Let's say, for example, me, when I was in college, I was partying, and obviously certain things in my life were lacking at the time, and certain things weren't working. So that was my decision at the time to not water certain things, and that's what happens. And I feel like that happens to a lot of people in life. I've seen it, I see it. For example, I feel like sometimes people get married and they're like, okay, this is it, we're done here. Like, there's no need to water this relationship because it's already here. We're stuck together. But no, I feel like you should even water it even more, continue to water it, right? So that's with everything that we do.
Right. All right. So, where were we before we went off on that?
I think you had asked. So if I remember correctly, you said, "Is it hard to be a real estate agent?" And then I said,
Oh, right,
no."
right.
And then you said, "Well, let's kind of move away from that question." And then you said something else, which I don't remember.
Yeah, I definitely.
I remember. So you said, "How did I get into the California Realtor and
Oh, that's
leveraging
right.
social
Leveraging,
media?"
yes.
So going back to that, I was never gonna do that, to be honest. Like, I was not gonna leverage myself as a real estate agent because growing up, that's not the way that I saw myself. I like social media, but I feel like, is it necessary to like fulfill yourself to grow? And I started hanging around certain crowds that were using their social media to, to maximize their business, and they showed me a different way to do it, right? So if it was just for me, I wouldn't have done it. But the fact that I positioned myself in certain environments, they showed me, hey, you can leverage this. So I decided, you know what? I am going to step in here. and I'm going to make a name for myself, and I'm going to promote. So that's when I decided, I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I might as well go all in. Like, why half-ass it, right? So that's how that started, because I was positioning myself with specific groups of people. But if it would have been just for me, without going out and learning from other people, then I probably wouldn't have done that.
Right. So who would you say did you model your did you model any of your tactics on social media after anybody?
Um,
Or are you
well,
or is it still an ongoing journey?
I think it's ongoing. It's an ongoing journey, and the way I see it is, it's kind of like reading a book and learning something. I think, well, at least me personally, I take bits and pieces from everything and everyone, and then I just add that to myself. I don't really take anything, you know, like to the extreme. It's more, let me just grab this. This might just work for me, right? So when I read a book, I'm not, taking in the entire book. I just take like 5 pieces, and that's the same thing I do with people. So I take, oh, I like this, boom, 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 and then I integrate that into myself.
Right. So now now you're the California Realtor. You got your social media.
Yeah.
You're working. You're doing this.
hmm
Do you have a long-term plan?
I do, yeah. So I want to say, I don't want to speak too much about the long-term plan yet because I'm working on that, and I'm working on some self-development for myself where
Okay,
I
then
want to do it first.
we could go at it
Okay,
this angle.
okay.
We could go at it this angle. Should people be building like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan? Should people have those really long-term goals? Because I think you can have those long-term goals, but you need to set yourself up with some goals that you can get real close to real soon.
Got it.
So that you could build that momentum and success just in yourself as well. So that you
Yeah.
could build that confidence so that you could keep going forward. Because if you don't have those small goals and all you have is those long-term goals, they seem so far out, and I feel like that will lend itself to deterring you from continuing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you, and I think it just depends on what kind of person you are. Let's say me personally, the goals that I'm working on, I mean, I would consider them pretty big, and some people would say they're out of this world type of goals, and that's just the way that I am. I consider myself a pretty, I like to take risks when it comes to things. Um, but I feel like you do need a long-term goal. I mean, I guess you need like an exit plan, like what investors say. You need an entrance plan and an exit plan, right? With anything that you do to fully execute it. So one thing that has helped me is a vision board, right? So I do a vision board. I do it for the year, and then I do my goals accordingly. So I feel like yearly, when I do a vision board yearly, it helps me out because now I'm just executing goals one step at a time. Now, let's say if I actually made a life vision board, and I remember that year that I had that life vision board and I did not make a yearly vision board. That year was intense because I don't think I was clear enough on my path as I would have been if I would have had that yearly, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
I was focused on like the bigger picture, but I'm not focusing on the next steps that I need to take.
So I'll tell you a little bit of my plan and see what you think. So I want to have like a production company, and basically my production company produces my YouTube channels. So
Okay.
obviously we got the Chris David Show, and then my other channel is Romina Talks. That's my daughter's vlogging and podcast channel. So I have a whole bunch of ideas for her channel and stuff. So eventually, like I want to have my own
Production.
studio,
Okay.
podcast studio, equipment, a whole team, and also like even further, I want to, probably, I want to produce comedy specials for comedians, as well
Okay.
as for myself. I'm a stand-up. I'm gonna produce for myself.
Yeah.
But I think it would be cool, to have build a production company that services up-and-coming comedians.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I feel like that's that specifically what you just said. I mean, I personally haven't seen it anywhere. I haven't heard of it, right? So I think it'd be a pretty good idea. Like I don't hear of anybody catering to comedians. So I feel like, I mean, outside of like let's say like the studios, right? Or like
Yeah.
when you go to an event, I don't really hear of it. So I feel like it's a pretty good idea, and you should just you're already
So
doing
I'm
it, so you're on that
definitely
path.
I'm definitely modeling it off of what has currently been going on in comedy. The big comedy boom has been the comedians have figured out over the past decade that the that the best combination for their independent growth is doing stand-up touring and having a podcast to promote that stand-up and touring. And
Yeah.
those two together, have built the comedy monolith as it is today.
Mm-hmm.
That combination, has
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
launched a whole bunch of comedians on Netflix and online,
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually. I'm gonna take a note here too.
And
Real
like a
quick.
good, obviously one of the best ones doing it out there is your mom's house, Tom Segura and Christina Pajitsky. They have a podcast. They're both comedian
Okay.
stand-ups, and they have they're big production. They're probably like they're the North Star for what I'm talking about.
Got it. So they're
Um,
comedians.
Right.
Are they? I don't know. Are they the ones that have like the action figure head, or is that somebody else?
I'm
Or is
not
that
sure.
them? Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure, but Tom Segura and Christina Pajitsky,
Okay.
and
Okay.
they they basically have a huge
Uh-huh.
production company
Okay.
that produces all of their podcasts. They produce like other people's podcasts. They have a rapper, Danny Brown,
Uh-huh.
who became who's now a podcaster as well as a rapper. So I think there's so much potential. I don't think it's a bubble. I don't think podcasting is a bubble. And yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in that.
Yeah. I believe it. There's a lot of leveraging, especially with technology right now. I feel like if you can leverage this time, then do it. Right
And listen,
now,
because
yeah,
artificial
go ahead.
intelligence is about to take everybody's job, so you need to figure out what the fuck you're gonna do.
Yeah. That's true. And
AI,
and
AI, like
yeah, and I've actually heard from some friends that TikTok and Instagram, they're gonna be promoting people that could retain an audience. So if you can retain an audience, they want you. So
course, of
if
course.
you can produce content, then you know you're gonna get up there.
yeah. Um, Top business figures, big names. Who's doing it the best out there?
Who's doing it the best? A
Yeah.
lot of people. I admire a lot of people. That's actually a pretty big question for me because the way I see people is as long as you're happy, I feel like you've done it, right? So there's a lot of people that I admire that maybe others wouldn't consider huge, but I personally admire those that are happy and that are doing what they love and what they're passionate about. Somebody that I can say that I really admire, a couple is actually I have their book right here. So Bobby Castro and Sofia Castro. I love what they've built. I've heard their story multiple times, and I could continue hearing it over and over again. I love their story, and I love what they built. I love what they're building, even now with their family.
What
And
industry are they in?
so they're in the real estate industry.
Okay.
So before that, they were in different industry, and then they stepped into real estate, and that's when I met them, and I just love their story. They just hang out with their family. They're motivated. They're focused. They talk about non-refundable minutes and the next generation, and I really love that. I feel like
Non-refundable minutes, as in like you're not getting your time back.
yeah, like
Like
let's
stop
say
wasting your time.
yeah, like let's say this podcast right now, like I personally think it's worth you know the non-refundable minutes, but I feel like if you're doing something that's kind of killing your time or wasting your time, then move from there, pivot. So that's something that he really stresses, and I really love, and I also love the next generation aspect of it, because I don't think I was ever taught that growing up. So now when I hear it from Bobby, a really genuine person, I take notes, and I really appreciate what he talks about, because I don't remember where I heard this from, but I heard this from somewhere, and it might have been Bobby, but and I think it was Bobby. So it went something like, how would it feel if your grandparent or your dad or your great grandparent thought about you, right, as they're building, which is the way that it should be, right? They should be thinking about you. So it's like me thinking about, Hercules' kids or his kids' kids, like, oh shoot, I want them to be good. And just to have that feeling of like, oh shoot, somebody thought of me, like even before I was even on this planet, like I feel like that's beautiful. So that's something that's really inspired me, and that's what fuels, well, that is part of what fuels what I am working on.
Right? Learning how to build generational wealth,
Yeah.
which is like really important to people, should be very important to people in Boyle Heights, because in people from Boyle Heights, you're not born with wealth. People before us didn't understand finances. So,
Yeah.
We're going to take it upon ourselves to figure it out and to build generational wealth and create a future for fucking our grandkids and our great grandkids. And I heard this thing that's like, sometimes the family's first burst into wealth is when like your grandparents die and you receive the life insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like a family's first big burst into wealth.
The first time you grow in there.
So no, but hold on. People in Boyle Heights, our parents don't think about, they wouldn't ever think to have life insurance.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
especially like think about like Mexican culture. Now, how do you sit down with them and be like, I need you to get life insurance so that you can leave me money? That's a hard conversation, because it's
Okay.
like it's gonna be perceived selfish from your like a lot of, like I feel like it would be perceived as selfish, but I think it's really important.
Okay. I have not thought about that, but that is true. Now that I'm diving deeper into this, and I feel like I'm actually taking a note from this, because I want to further investigate this and look at the statistics of this.
Right.
But that is true. I mean, they're not thinking of it, and I think sometimes it's lack of knowledge.
Get life insurance.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just lack of knowledge. Like you just don't know what to do, right? I mean, we're on a different path, and I'm grateful.
Just like financial education. A lot of people don't have that.
And I feel like we're in a pretty good position, because our parents put us there.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to do this right now, right? Maybe our parents, by the time they got home, they probably wouldn't even be able to do this. Like maybe they retired, right?
So completely different lives, total different mentality. Like my dad, he came from Mexico. He has that whole story. And it's like they did that whole journey so that we can go on our journey. I feel.
Yeah.
My dad was deported like a whole bunch of times in his 20s, like just a crazy, like he has the typical crossing the river and all, like
Yeah.
everything you can imagine. Just an extraordinary journey.
Hmm.
And now, it's time for us to go on our extraordinary journey, right?
Yeah. And I love that. I love what you just said because you saw what he did, and you're like, damn, this guy didn't quit. Like, so he
No.
showed you, right? He's like, and he probably hasn't even quit yet. He's probably still on his journey, and I feel like as a parent, you should do that for your kid, right? You should go out and follow your dreams and do what you need to do. Yes, you do have your kid, but you also have to show your kid, hey, this is what I'm doing, and take care of them at the same time, right? Like you want to take care of your kid, not just forget about him, but I feel
No.
like that's something that's really inspiring to hear from parents when they're going out and they're doing what they need to do, to follow their dreams and, to follow through with their goals. And that just shows us, and we can talk about it like right now. It's like,
That's why I think it's really important to find a passion, because, like, without my dad having the burning passion to become a musician here in the United States and achieve all of that, like, he would have, like, there wouldn't have been that passion to. He would have
yeah.
he'd go back and still be living in this small town in Mexico, which is no problem, but that passion put him on this crazy journey.
Hmm.
So I think it's really important, because if you don't find a passion, you're going to be lost. You're going to be working dead end jobs. You're going to be unsatisfied, depressed. Like, I'm not saying find a passion and that's the cure to everything. That's not what I'm saying. But it's definitely going to start to clear out what you don't need in your life.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that conversation is, it's pretty heavy too, because some people, it just depends what people are passionate about. But for sure, if, let's say if you're depressed, and obviously there's a reason why, and I mean, I wouldn't, I feel like everybody kind of goes through those emotions, but there definitely has to be like a shift in your life, and maybe that depression is just like a symptom of it, right? Hey, can we switch this up? Like, can you do something else? Your body, your mind is telling you, hey, you gotta do something, right? Like, maybe you're almost there, but maybe that depression is just, hey, like, wake up, like, get up and do this, please. Like, yeah, it's gonna be a risk. Yeah, it's gonna be scary. Yeah, you don't know what's gonna happen, but go out there and do it. So maybe that's what depression is. I don't know, to be honest, but obviously we're, as a society, I think we're still learning a lot about depression, right, and mental health. I think it's I was there's one of my favorite books is called Never Split the Difference, and it's about a hostage negotiator that talks about um, emotions and people's thoughts. And there was actually a negotiator prior to Chris Voss. I don't remember, but I think Chris Voss and another guy. I think he's the other guy's in like The Mind of Murder or something. Um, they were kind of like the first people to kind of really um, step into the negotiation. So the way negotiations were done before was, let's say somebody was holding up a bank, they would just go in a shootout, right? Like, hey, you need to get out, or we're gonna kill you. And they found that too many people were dying because of that.
Of
So
course.
these new generation negotiators were like, wait, let me talk to this guy first. Like
Right.
before we do the shootout. And I know that the guy from that TV show, The Mind of Matter, and Chris Voss, they were like the first people to see that shift, and that's not that long ago. So we're still learning about mental health. But one thing that I do see is, um, if something is happening in your life, if you do feel a certain type of way, then obviously, I personally I personally feel like any symptom, if you can fix it, if you can cure it, perfect, do it. Like, I don't think you should like just set it aside and be like, I'll deal with this later. It's like, no, attack it. Figure out what you need to do in order to get rid of it. If even that, because obviously a lot of people go through so many things that sometimes it's just chronic at that point. But if you have the ability to to adjust it and cure it and change it, then do that for sure.
Absolutely. If you're depressed, get help. And I think the idea of like, oh, don't get medical help. Like I feel like that message is out there a lot now too. Like don't get medical help for your
Yeah.
depression. I think you shouldn't have that bias. I think, you know, medicine, of course, you know, it's not perfect, but if it's gonna help your depression, I mean, definitely do
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the things you need to do to get rid of your depression.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there's this thing that's like, okay, let's say you're deficient in a vitamin, right, or something in your body. Now, obviously, you're not eating the right foods, but what I heard from someone was, okay, yeah, take the vitamin, take it. You know, bring yourself back up to homeostasis to like your normal levels, and then at that point, like, if you can supplement that with the foods that you're eating, right, by changing your lifestyle, then perfect,
Right.
right?
But then that comes down to like, you know, access to healthcare.
Exactly.
How many people
Okay.
have access to healthcare to get a blood panel to figure out, you know, they're deficient in
that's true.
zinc? Like that's an expensive blood panel, you know?
I
So,
mean,
you know,
I guess talking from, let's say, you know, obviously we're out here in the U.S. and obviously things are different.
Yeah.
This is talking for the people in, you know, in our area, in our generation, and it's sad to say, but you know, a lot of people don't have access to that, and hopefully one day they will because they should, you know. And it's kind of sad to say that, hey, you know, go get a, like, let's say somebody from a different country is like, oh yeah, let me listen to what they're talking about. Oh, I could just do, oh yeah, it's so simple, right? There's like not even a hospital in my village, right? But I'm over here talking about it like, you know, you should do that. But obviously, we're, you know, we're blessed right now to be in this position, and you know, who knows, life will give for sure to people, and that's another topic to talk about as well, you know.
so real quick before we wrap it up, I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk a little bit about Elon Musk. So,
Okay.
how
Uh,
do you think he's
Elon Musk.
like? Is he
Mm.
a genius working, you know, working very practically in all these industries, or is he a businessman? Like, how do you think he's more of a businessman or more of like a scientist type of person?
I don't really know Elon's Musk's story too much, to be honest. Like, all I know is what I've seen like on TikTok and maybe like one interview on YouTube, and maybe like some Instagram videos. Um, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think he's a smart guy. I've heard a couple interviews. I mean, he's putting up like satellites up in the air. Obviously, he has Tesla. I mean, I would assume if he's as successful as he is, I mean, either he knows the business side or he's working with people that know the business side, right?
Right,
He's delegating that. So I think whatever he's doing, he's really successful and he's doing very well. I don't know if he's doing it for himself. I know a lot of business people that are like, I'm good at this and I'm gonna focus on this. So I don't know. I mean, I consider him like a pretty smart guy. His name is everywhere. I mean, I don't think there goes a day without people thinking about Elon Musk,
Right.
especially because of Twitter now. Like,
Well,
I think people just get
think,
on, right?
You just think about the amount of industries that he's in. He's SpaceX,
That's good.
so
yeah.
he's going to control the future of space travel.
Yeah.
Tesla, they're the leading electric car,
Yeah.
and everybody's transitioning to electric cars.
Mm.
Twitter, which is social media and culture war. He's now into that industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
feel,
data collection, that's also the industry that he's now into by purchasing Twitter.
Yeah.
What's another business? The business where he wants to put the chip in your brain.
Oh yeah.
To, like, rehabilitate Neuralink.
Yeah. So personally, I feel like it takes a really strong individual to be a leader in specific industries, and obviously, like I said, I don't know him. I don't know him. I don't know his whole story, but I know that he's put himself in positions where he's vulnerable to, you know, attacks and different oppositions, and I feel like he was able to weather those storms, you know, and I think that takes a really strong individual to do that. So that's just, you know, my thoughts of what I see of what he's doing, because he is putting himself in vulnerable positions for people to talk about him and criticize him. So I would consider him like a really smart guy, and he's like a leader. I mean, not many people are willing to lead. Not many people are willing to put their face out there. Kind of like how you're doing it right now. Like, not many people are
Right.
willing to do a podcast like this and talk.
Right. So, but then you could contrast, like, why is he taking a public, like, why is he making himself available to the public when other billionaires don't in the same way, you know? Like, you
Well-
take it in contrast, like somebody like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett doesn't have a public persona really. It's just like,
Well, I think he's in the technology business, so I feel like it's more necessary on his end. At least I would assume, especially if you're in technology. One of the biggest things that I've learned in like business, and obviously like I'm still learning, but in business, let's say if you want to get people to like you, obviously they got to know who you are first.
Right.
So you do have to know you do want people to know who you are in order for them to vote for you, and in order for them to support your business. So I feel like in technology, I feel like maybe that's part of his
definitely, because if you
game
look
plan.
at it absolutely is, because he's leveraged his public personality for increasing his profits in his businesses.
Yeah.
It's absolutely worked. His public persona is what raised the Tesla stock and made him
Yeah.
the number one richest person
Yeah.
on the planet.
And I'm gonna
He
add
he
something.
leveraged his public persona.
Yeah.
He obviously, with a good product,
Yeah.
combined those two, and now they're the leading
Yeah. Exactly.
electric
So
car.
I mean, obviously, we can go into so many conversations about this. One thing that I did want to add, I'm actually listening, and I know it's getting kind of cold here, so
Yeah, it's kind of cold, so we're gonna have to kill it soon.
yeah. So I'm gonna add
I'm
something.
freezing.
Yeah, it's pretty cold out here, and I got this little guy right here
Yeah,
too.
we're gonna be done. I'm in shorts though. I'm the only one here
Yeah,
in
this
shorts.
guy's, I don't know.
Shorts and short sleeves.
I got like a turtleneck. I don't know about this guy, but so I'm listening to this podcast right now. It's by Angie Frisella and Alex Ramosi, and I love it. I've been listening to one podcast. I have not finished it because I'm taking it in increments because it's so good. And I think I'm like halfway through. I think I have about an hour, 15 minutes left. Halfway through, and maybe this will kind of just like, tie into almost everything that we spoke about. So, and the podcast. So Alex Ramosi says, one thing that he wishes he would have done sooner in his business, and something that he is teaching to the people that ask to be mentored by him or ask him questions, is, let's say all of your marketing was just cut, right? Let's say everything was cut, and the one rule was, hey, you could only get business from one person, right? How would you treat that one person in order for them to give you or to spread your business, to spread your voice for you? How would you treat that person? So I feel like this ties into this podcast, this ties into business, this ties into, let's say, like Elon Musk and marketing. So what would you do, right? That's like a question that I'm even answering myself right now. Like, what would I do if I only had one person that was able to share my business? Like, how would I treat them? What would I do? Like, right? If that was my only source of business, just that one person, because people talk, right? And people will share your business, and the best business that you can get is a referral, right? In anything. So like even this podcast, like if one person is like, dude, you got to watch the Chris David show. Like, this is it right here. It's so cool. Like, how would you treat that person for him to continue, putting your name out there? And I feel like everybody in business has to do that. But I feel like this one question hit me so deep, and I'm stuck on this part, and I'm like, I need to figure this out. Think about this, marinate in it.
That's a good. What do they call, like, thought exercise? That's a really good thought exercise.
Yeah.
So, that's the California Realtor, and this is the Chris Davis Show,
We'll do some more.
live from your mother's basement, bitch. Bye. Oh shit.
That was good.
Yep.
Dude, I feel
Here's,
like
we're still live. Hold on, let
Oh.
me kill this.
we touched like a couple questions. I feel like there's so much that we could talk about too.